Okay, well, let me give it to you straight. Music and lowriders.
Benjamin plays a character who's based on a real-life relative of ours named Che. He started one of the first lowrider clubs in the Mission, and he's a what you might call a lowrider OG.
He's really kind of an anachronistic persona.
My name is Che. I know about that shit. Simone, yeah.
He was a consultant on the film, so we went to him for set design, like what would this character have in his house? What colors would he choose? What would he have on his walls? What kind of clothes does he wear? Describe the car he would have, and then a huge part of that is what is the music he listens to? And so Che was very, very specific in describing that world and that aesthetic. We grew up in San Francisco. We're both born and raised. When we were kids, we grew up in a neighborhood called Glen Park, which borders the Mission. But we went to schools that were located in the Mission. First job was in the Mission. First kiss, first dances.
The obvious choice for us was to set it in the Mission District of San Francisco, which is arguably one of the most vibrant, incredible, artistic, Latin-influenced neighborhoods in the country.
Our mother was an activist during the 60s and 70s, so we were kids during that time, and so there was a lot of political activism, cultural renaissance, and creativity. You know, art kind of went hand in hand with the politics of the day, and music was a huge, huge part of that.
I would agree, and I think that what was going on musically, not just in the country, but in particular in the community that's in the film, The Mission, was perhaps some of the most complex and interesting music that still lives on today.
In terms of finding a music composer, I'd first thought of Mark even early on during pre-production because I had met him and I'd listened to his score for Before the Rain back in Toronto when the movie had debuted. You know, everyone had loved the music, and at the time, I was surprised when I'd seen the movie because Mark was South African and he did this Indian music, and I thought that it was very reflective of the time period and also just the Indian culture. We actually, at that point, we'd started with a list of, I think, 6 to 8 people, and then sort of narrowed it down to 3, and then met with Mark and listened to all of his music. By the time we met, we knew that he could do something special.
Here's a guy who's a South African by birth origin, and yet who musically is influenced by so many different things from around the world, and he utilizes it in a way that makes it universal and yet specific culturally at the same time. It's pretty remarkable.
We were interviewing several different film composers, and you know me, I'm a local boy in San Francisco, and I'm wanting somebody from the neighborhood or at least from the city, who really understands the culture and the history of the music that the OG Lowriders listen to, and also who kind of knows about Chicano culture and Aztec tradition. And so we're interviewing all these different people, and I interview a lot of local people, and not really hearing in their work samples, not really hearing the essence of what we're looking for. So Alpita calls me up and she says, you know, there's this guy from South Africa, this white guy from South Africa, man, he really loved the script. And I said, wow, South Africa, white guy from South Africa. Well, you know, what has he done? He did this film called Satsi, which won an Academy Award a few years back. I watched the film and I was blown away by the film, dealing with the South African underclass and the kaleidoscope of sounds that he incorporated into the film. So I said, wow, this is interesting. I think let's meet him. And so, you know, Mark shows up, and I, you know, ask him, you know, does he know anything about Chicano culture? And he asked me, what's a Chicano? And so I thought, oh man, I'm in trouble. And what I found out about him is that he takes in sounds and appreciates sounds on such a deep level from around the world. And I think at the core of it, really uses music as on a more spiritual level.
So as part of the band or orchestra of the score that I assembled to write this music was a nylon string guitar, sort of flamenco-esque style guitaring. And I had an assistant, Chris Westlake, who I didn't know played guitar. And one day I was saying to him, well, I need a guitarist for this score. You know, do you know anyone? He said, well, actually, I'm a pretty good guitarist. So we tried him out, and he was fantastic. And so he became the guitar voice. He played all the nylon acoustic guitar in the score.
This is fun music. I like this stuff.
And I was also looking for a singer who was able to deliver the emotive and powerful sort of context we were looking for the vocal to provide in the score. One night I was over at a bar called Hell's in Venice Beach, and there was this woman playing percussion there. And then she sang. After a few songs, she started singing, and she was absolutely amazing. And I went up to her afterwards and spoke to her, and it turns out she was actually from the Mission District and from that area.
Mark found this incredible vocalist, Astaire, who it turns out is from the Mission. all roads lead to the Mission, man. But is from the Mission, and
who
actually
ends up playing in the climactic scene, ends up playing the mother in mourning.
it really felt like that this feminine presence could really come through the music.
This is a Dusty Strings harp. It is one of the instruments I used to create the score of La Mission. And I've assembled here a little orchestra of La Mission score instruments. These are some of the instruments that I used in the making of the score. The charango is one of the main instruments that I used as the sort of main voice of a lot of the melodic stuff. This is a Bolivian instrument. It's traditionally made from armadillo shell, and the instrument is a high-pitched 10-stringed instrument that sounds like this. And you can also play melodies on it. I used some Native American flutes on the score, both melodically and to make some textures. This over here is the contrabass. It's the biggest and lowest Native American flute you can find. It's in A, but it's a very low A. This is also in A. It's also a Native American flute, but it's a triple flute. It has 3 chambers. And again, I can do weird stuff with this one if I use the same note and then alter the pitch slightly. Then over here we have the Tibetan temple bowls, which I used in various places for ambient sound. They sound like this. So this is a Chinese instrument called a hulusi. It's a bamboo reed instrument. It also has a drone thing, just like this flute does, which means you're getting 2 sounds at once, which makes it ideal for making weird texture kind of sounds. This over here is an Aztec instrument. This is called a tepanashli. This guy here is a panhuehuetl, which is a big Aztec drum, again out of really heavy carved, beautiful carving, very heavy wood, with the deerskin head like that. Last but not least is the clay ocarina. This is a Mexican ocarina. I actually bought this one in the Mission District. It has a double chamber, so it's got 2 sides with 2 different pitches.
my mind, the music that the characters listen to as well as the score, they really function as one of the main characters.
You ain't shit if you ain't got the correct music, all right? And for the proper Brown experience, okay, and I call it the Brown experience, you gotta have your music, and you gotta have it queued up and ready to go. I don't listen to none of this new music nowadays or something like that. You know, I just listen to old school stuff, okay?
Greg Lando was our musical supervisor, and our relationship with him goes back to childhood.
He's like a Latin rock historian. I mean, his knowledge of the genre, but also of the players that were intricately involved in the emerging scene back in the 70s is immense.
He's a musicologist. He's actually a professor that teaches musicology.
And still produces tracks. So we were beyond fortunate to be able to get him to agree to help us recreate some of the sounds.
He's been sort of a Latin music producer fixture in San Francisco and the Bay Area. His contacts were very useful. He provided sort of a support system that we really didn't have as an indie production.
I'm a music producer, musician, composer, and educator, and I live here in Bernal Heights in San Francisco. I got involved in this film through a long-time connection. I got to know Peter and Ben's mother. Peter had been talking to me about this idea, and he said, I want you to do the music, I want you to work on the music and help me get the right musicians, the people that are going to represent this neighborhood, the sounds, the textures, the rhythms that are going to represent what this neighborhood is about. And a lot of the other sounds that would be the things that you would hear in the streets, and that would be the incidental music, because the Mission District in San Francisco in general is so diverse and eclectic. And it was really gratifying when in the premiere, one of the Lowrider clubs showed up and they clapped when they heard the songs, because they said, that's it, you nailed it, you got it, that's the right song. We talked to a lot of people like the original Che.
A lot of my music goes way back.
A lot about what he listened to and what were the things that worked and didn't for him.
Why we listen to the oldies, I don't know, man.
We worked with John Santos, Orlando Torriente, with Brian Dyer. Him and Michelle Jacques sang most of the songs.
Like I said, the oldies were made from the heart, brother.
The music is going to just anchor, again, this set of historical descriptors that would help the audience place this guy, right? Place this guy in this historical continuum, and to understand who these Latinos are.
Boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? You know, because I'm proud to be what I am. And you know what? My image that I reflect upon people, I want them to respect me. But I respect people if they respect me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be a nationalist or anything like that. Everybody's brown because we all come from the earth. And we all return to it when we leave this earth. So we all are brown.
We're at Skywalker Sound, which is located on Skywalker Ranch in West Marin County. It is one of the most advanced audio post-production facilities in the world. We've figured out a way to apply technology to the art of filmmaking in a very, very unique way. All our mix rooms and sound design and edit rooms are tied together via a network that accesses one database in the center of the building, so we can sound design in rooms like this, move down the hall to small mix rooms to prepare the sounds for mix, go to a final mix room that is a theater-sized mix room, and then eventually end up in our screening room, a 300-seat theater, to see what the movie's going to sound like out in the real world. I was also the sound designer and sound effects editor, so I created the sound effects for the film. So a mixer's job is to take all those various departments and combine them together in a way that propels the story, and so they don't interfere with each other. Everything can't be loud at the same time. The mix on this film was about 10 days. Prior to that, I believe we spent a month or two preparing the sounds.
I feel that the music is so damn important, you know what I mean? All the music in the movie is beautiful. Be done right, no chafa shit, you know what I mean?
The score we wanted to try to reflect more kind of like the cultural melting pot that is the Mission.
And you know one thing about Peter? Every time I see him, something like magical happens.
What's very much a part of that place and a part of the people who live there is the music. And so the music really needed to have just as strong a presence within the storyscape as any of the lead characters. And in fact, it emerges as a kind of character in the film.
And pretty much the idea is to just love your children and listen to them, and even if you're a fuck up, you know.
The Mission District's a melting pot, so we're trying to bring together stories from all over the place, from different points of view, from different angles, and we're trying to give them a unifying emotional context.
The music should have all these different influences, but ultimately the story at the core is about transformation, spiritual transformation, if you will.
Fried neck bones and some home fries. Ba ba da ba da ba bum 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 bow.